What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the world according to Briggs. Do you have college loan debt? Do your kids now, or will they in the future? If you're one of those future debt owners or their parents, this video is for you. College is expensive enough without living in a city with a painfully high cost of living. College loan debt in the United States is $32,000 on average. It's the average. Sometimes it's much higher. Obviously, that's how averages work. They'll teach you about that in college if you didn't get it in high school. So with all that loan debt you could be acquiring, picking a city with a low cost of living is preferred. This video isn't about anything but the cost of living in college towns. We ignored things like weather, jobs, healthcare, and transportation. I will tell you that I took some cities out that are extremely dangerous for anyone to send their kids to. I feel weird suggesting someone's kid should be living in a dangerous place to save a buck. And before you do, stop typing. Every place has crimes and the potential to be dangerous. So towns on this list you might consider dangerous compared to the ones I am excluding, they're not. So everyone always seems to think wherever they live is the most dangerous place on the world, and because they live there, they've got some inside information. You know, numbers don't lie. All right, let's see where you can get an education on a discount, so to speak. Number 10. Huntsville, Alabama. Huntsville has never seemed like the rest of Alabama to me. If you ever go there and you spend any time in Alabama, you'll probably see it too. It just feels like it's in another state. It's weird, I know, but it's just the vibe I get. They have about 180,000 residents with a little over 460,000 in the metro area. The city carries the nickname Rocket City because of its close association with the early days of the US space missions. Yeah, a lot of the science went on in Huntsville. Some of the greatest minds in the country back in the day were floating around Huntsville. Room and board at Rocket City universities are well below the national average. They have a lot of universities and colleges in Huntsville, like the University of Alabama in Huntsville, Alabama A&M University, Oakwood University, Calhoun Community College, Virginia College in Huntsville, Huntsville Bible College, Mimi's Beauty Academy of Cosmetology, and the Salon Professional Academy. They got it all here. Cost of living in Huntsville is 5% lower than the national average, and Huntsville's housing is 13% lower than the national average. Number 9. Fargo, North Dakota. If you imagine freezing to death or being put in a wood chipper when you think about Fargo, North Dakota, you've watched too many Coen brother movies. Fargo is home to North Dakota State University, and if you've never been to Fargo, it's a really nice place. I don't recommend it if you hate the cold, but other than that, Fargo's a great place to live, and it's kinda cheap. They have around 120,000 residents in the city with almost 250,000 in the metro area. All of Fargo's stats are graded above a C except for weather. They get a D-, and it gets really cold in Fargo. I don't mind cold, but I think their cold is a little too much. I've been there one time during the winter, and it was like straight to the bone cold. The other times I was there, it was in the summer, so I'm not an expert on it, but I know it gets cold. The cost of living in Fargo is 7% lower than the national average, and the housing is 10% lower than the national average. It's not a bad place. It might be a little boring for some college students, but it's definitely a nice place to live. Number 8, Beaumont, Texas. Now, I don't think we've ever talked about Beaumont, Texas on this channel before. I went through there on an Amtrak train once, and that was about my only experience with the place. I do know someone that went to school there in Lamar University. He grew up in nearby Port Arthur, but that's about it. So I'm going off the stats on this one. I was also on the fence about even adding this one. The crime is a little high. Now, it's not crazy East St. Louis high, but it's up there. And on top of that, 9 years ago, the New York Times published an article called Where to Live to Avoid a Natural Disaster. And it was a list. And Beaumont and the Port Arthur area was ranked as the 5th most vulnerable place in the country for natural disasters. So that's not good, but it's cheap. It's really cheap. The good news is also the crime has been going down over the last few years, so a couple years might be a really nice place to stay. Beaumont is east of Houston and has about 116,000 residents, and the metro area holds about 400,000. Cost of living in Beaumont is 12% lower than the national average, and housing is 39% lower than the national average. Not a bad college town, price-wise. Number 7, Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Wilkes-Barre is near Scranton and a short drive from my favorite small town in the world, Honesdale, Pennsylvania. Now, I've been here more than a few times. I love this part of the country. It's one of my favorite places to visit. They've gone all in Wilkes-Barre on colleges and universities. There's King's College and the Wilkes University, the Commonwealth Medical College, and the McCann School of Business and Technology. They also have the Pennsylvania State University Wilkes-Barre campus, a little over 12 miles northwest of the city. So yeah, like I said, there's plenty of places to get edumacated, as my uncle used to call it. The cost of living in Wilkes-Barre is 13% lower than the national average, and the housing is 50% lower than the national average as well. So you can live here pretty cheap and get an education. Apparently you can get all kinds of education here. Number 6, Lubbock, Texas. Lubbock County was founded in 1876. It was named after Thomas Lubbock, former Texas Ranger and brother of Francis Lubbock, who was the governor of Texas during the Civil War. Lubbock is a weird place, sort of in the middle of the state by itself, like a discarded falafel. In Texas, there is a major highway or interstate from Dallas to almost all the cities in the state. Kind of like all roads lead to Rome type thing. Not Lubbock, no interstate for them. This is how it looks on Google Maps. Some of the roads to Lubbock from Dallas are like a step up from being a 2-lane dirt road. Lubbock is home to Texas Tech University, and it's a cheap place to live. The cost of living in Lubbock is 13% lower than the national average, and housing is 28% lower. Yeah, it gets hot, and it's kind of out there, like I said, but it's not a bad place to live. Number 5, Terre Haute, Indiana. Terre Haute, Indiana has at least 4 options for higher learning: Harrison College, Ivy Tech Community College, the Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology, and Indiana State University. Terre Haute is probably the biggest city you hit on a road trip from Indianapolis to St. Louis, and honestly, that's how most people see this city, out the side window of a car. Terre Haute has a little over 60,000 residents, and that's it. There's no metro area to this one. If you want to send your kids to one of the 4 schools here, it's not going to be a wild school. It's not known for, this being a crazy town. In Terre Haute, the cost of living is 15% lower than the national average, and housing is 50%. Not bad. Number 4, Fort Wayne, Indiana. Fort Wayne is another place that runneth over with the higher learning. They have a buttload of schools like Ivy Tech Community College, Indiana Institute of Technology, and Purdue University, Fort Wayne. Fort Wayne is a town that's been getting better, a lot better over the last few years. It's a great place for families. If I was one of those dudes like on cable news channels that tells you to buy or sell stock, they rate them, I would rate Fort Wayne as a serious buy. This is really a nice place to live, not just go to school. This is one of those places that if you send your kid to one of the schools here, they might stay. The cost of living in Fort Wayne is 16% lower than the national average, and housing is 39% lower. Number 3, Akron, Ohio. About 40 minutes south of Cleveland, you have Akron. 40 minutes is just far enough not to get lumped in with the whole Cleveland metro area. This probably helps their property values. They have the Cuyahoga Valley National Park separating the 2 cities, which is good. In Akron, you have the University of Akron, which takes up a good chunk of the downtown of the city. The only downside is the name the Zips. Yeah, that's their football team's name, the Zips. So if you go to USC in Southern California, you're a Trojan for life. Michigan, you're a Wolverine. Solid names for football teams. Fighting Irish is good. Washington State Cougars, great. The University of South Carolina's the Gamecocks. No, that one sucks too. Never mind, that one's weird. But if you graduate from Akron, you're a Zip for life. The cost of living in Akron is 16% lower than the national average, and the housing is 50% lower than the national average. Yeah, you can do a lot worse than living here in Akron. Number 2, Waterloo, Iowa. Now this one shouldn't catch anyone off guard. Iowa is a cheap place to live, everyone knows that. And Waterloo is one of the cheaper cities in the state. Waterloo has the Hawkeye Community College and the University of Northern Iowa in the city limits. Waterloo was originally known as Prairie Rapids Crossing. It was first settled in 1845 when George and Mary Melrose Hanna and their children arrived at the east bank of the Red Cedar River. Some time ago they dropped the red part, now it's just called the Cedar River these days. There's about 68,000 residents, with about 165 living in the metro area. The cost of living in Waterloo is 18% lower than the national average, and housing is 42% lower than the national average. That's not bad. And number 1, Richmond, Indiana. Richmond has 4 places to get a piece of paper with a degree on it: Earlham College, Indiana University East, and campuses of Purdue University College of Technology and Ivy Tech Community College. Other than Earlham, all the other schools are located in one area at the north end of the city for the most part, so that, saves you from having to go around. Keep most of the college kids in one area, which is nice. Richmond is nice because it's a little island in the middle of miles and miles of farmland. The closest city is Dayton, Ohio. Don't go there. Don't even go to Cincinnati. You could head west and go to Indiana. No, don't even go to Indianapolis. All right, go around Dayton and go to Columbus if you have to go to a big city, or drive north and go to Fort Wayne. Yeah, all the other places around there aren't worth it. The cost of living in Richmond is 25% lower than the national average, and the housing is 50% lower than the national average. All right, so that's today's list. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. You know, some schools might not be going back here in September or, late August. We'll find out. You know, we're in the middle of the pandemic. But yeah, if you're thinking about going to school, these are some solid options to at least look at. All right, everyone. Don't forget all the links below. Give the video a big thumbs up. If you like what we're doing here, please subscribe. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.